Service.
Mhm. Yeah. Yeah. Hmm.
The price can fall.
Oh, yeah.
He's usually like that. Fix it up. He usually prayers. And those guys.
I'm ready when you are in.
Okay, all right, let's go ahead and get started. I'll call the meeting to order. So this is the Wednesday, May 13th Transportation Technical Coordinating Committee. I am Flannery O'Neill. I'm with Louisville Metro Air Pollution Control District and Vice Chair filling in for Jim today. He was not able to join us. So I will kick it over to Andy to do roll call for us.
Thank you very much. Good to see everybody again. Let's start with Bullitt County. Here. Okay. City of Charlestown. City of Jeffersontown. Here. City of Jeffersonville. Mount Washington. New Albany. Maybe usually joins a little late. Shepherdsville. See you, Arthur.
Yeah, I'm here.
Yeah, I see you, Arthur. How you doing? City of St. Matthews. Clark County. Floyd County. NDOT Seymour.
Hey, let's hear.
Hi, Haley. NDOT Public Transportation.
Bob Talley's here.
Hi, Bob. NDOT Technical Planning. Keenan.
Ian just jumped on.
Keenan, sure. Oh, hey, Keenan. Thanks for joining us, Keenan. Kentucky DAQ.
Hi, we're here.
Hi, Claire. KYTC, Central Office. See who do I got here? Cedar. KYTC District 5.
Tom.
Hello, Tom. Get this here. KYTC Office of Transportation Delivery. Louisville Metro Air Pollution Control District.
Present.
Thank you. Louisville Metro Economic Development. Louisville Metro Planning.
Here.
Brian. Louisville Metro Public Works.
Good afternoon.
Hello, Mark. Louisville Regional Airport Authority. Oldham County. Jim, as we mentioned, Jim's got a prior arrangement today, meeting he had to be at. Oldham County Planning Commission.
In a bar.
Thank you, Anna. Anybody from the Port of Indiana on the line? How about Town of Clarksville? How about TARC?
I'm here.
Hi, Leanne.
Hi.
For those that don't know Leanne, might be quite a few of us. Leanne is the new director of planning over at TARC. So look forward to meeting her, and I hope everybody gets a chance to meet her really soon. So thanks for joining us, Leanne.
No problem. Next one I will be there.
All right. We'll hold you to that. Only kidding. Larry Summers is here from New Albany. Who else do we have? We got Bruce Bonney from Trimark. We've got Tanya Higdon from Federal Highways Kentucky. And I imagine, did I miss anybody? If I missed somebody, Emma, I see you on here. Hi, Emma. I think that's everybody. Get everybody at the table in the room, I think. I think we're good. We most definitely have a forum. Thank you all for being here.
Fantastic, thank you. Okay, up next, item 2 on the agenda, March TTCC meeting minutes. Hope you all had a chance to review those, and I'd entertain a motion to approve. I'll second that. Any discussion? All right, all in favor?
Bye.
All right. Any opposed? All right, motion carries. Up next, Transportation Policy Committee report. I'll hand that over to you.
Thank you very much. Since, just like this committee, we skipped April, so today I'll be reviewing what happened at our March 26th Transportation Policy Committee meeting. It was a busy one. We had a guest speaker at that TPC meeting. Our guest speaker that day was Mikhail Pelfrey from KYTC, Director of Division of Planning. And Mikhail gave us an update on the NEVI program, the National EV Electric Vehicle Infrastructure Program. Kentucky is ahead of the game, ahead of most states and on that program. And Mikhail shared some of the recent updates there. Talking about the build out and kind of the next phases that are imminent. Moving from the early phases, which ensured that on the really key routes had the proper spacing and distance from the freeway, for example. Moving on to the next level of roadways. We talked about our work program. As I think most of y'all know, we produce a work program each spring, and it gets approved typically in April. And sent to our federal partners at the end of April. With no meeting in April, we talked about that at the TPC meeting and at the KIPTA Board of Directors meeting that same afternoon. Both of those bodies said that the best course of action without the April meeting was to go ahead and authorize me to submit that report as the final report, and then we'll come back later this month and we will ratify it at those meetings. And I'll give an update to the TPC and board later this month on those things. There weren't any really major changes from the draft that was reviewed back in February. Brady announced the call for studies. Today, we will conclude the call for studies, so more on that here in a minute. We talked about our federal certification review that was upcoming at that time. Today, we will summarize the federal certification review that happened last week. I think that concludes the report. The other agenda items were just kind of typical non-business items. No other action items. So that concludes that report.
Great, thank you. Okay, up next, public comment period. So I'll hand that over to you, Greg.
Yep, did not receive any public comments prior to the meeting. I'm not seeing anything in the chat, but if anything comes up during the meeting, I'll bring it up in other business.
Fantastic. Okay, item number 5, connecting Kentuckiana 2050 Metropolitan Transportation Plan and 2025 to 2028 Transportation Improvement Program Amendment. Chris.
Thank you. Hi, folks. So I'm going to tell you about our active amendment that we have right now. It is not in the meeting packet, but I do have this QR code and address in the memo. I'll give y'all a moment if you want to on this meeting. Right. So this is the 4th amendment to the current TIP and also the 13th amendment to the current MTP. It's just one amendment though, with 2 names. Fortunately, we're likely to have 2 more to this current TIP and MTP, and then we'll restart the numbering again and it'll just be 1 name for a while. Amendment 4/13 includes updates that do affect the model. So this one is a full amendment. The complete project list was reviewed at the April 17th IAC meeting. The public comment period is complete. It ended yesterday, and I believe Greg will probably be sending the TPC member list the comments sometime today. We had a virtual meeting on May 11th on Monday, and that's a bit of my summary. So, policy criteria requirements that trigger amendments. As a review, we've got the bigger changes, adding or removing federally funded projects or phases that are regionally significant and or ineligible for administrative modification. Changes that provide a substantive change to the design concept or scope of the project, and significant changes in costs, or changes that affect the air quality conformity modeling. This is our general amendment timeline. Amendments usually do take 3 to 4 months to complete, but they can take up to 6 months. So keeping that in mind, you all know this, but make sure you plan ahead when you have a big change and we'll stay on schedule because that would be the key. You don't want to hold up projects. And this is our, this specific amendment schedule. As I already discussed some of the key dates, the activities in red here are where we are today and what we have left. This will be a, action item for sure to recommend approval. And I'll be asking for approval from the TPC later this month on the 28th. Like I said, it's a full amendment, so following that, we're still gonna need to request that federal review and get the letter, so it'll likely be completed more towards the end of June, early July, something like that. And so here's our project list. Start with the Indiana projects. We only have NDOT projects in Indiana this time. These first two do go together. So we have the existing project, I-64 and Spring Street interchange modification. That one, we are adding the directional to the description to clarify that. And we're pushing the funding phases and the open to public date out a little bit. So that will make this project illustrative because we don't have any funding phases that will be in the current tip years at this point. And related to that project, and it will also be illustrative, it's new, it's an ADA ramp junction project. All of the plans are within the project limits of the first project I just described. And again, these two do go together and they'll be illustrative. Let's see, so then the next three, these are existing projects that NDOT is going to be including into the MTP. So 3194, this one previously was funded with NHPP dollars. And it was made inactive, I think, in Amendment 1. Well, NDOT found other funding, and so now it's going to be pursued once again with HSIP dollars, and we're adding it back. Then I also have 3155 and 3054. Each of these, they are going to be added to the MTP. They were previously group projects and they exceeded the group threshold for their categories. It's 2 different categories. So we're gonna go ahead and make them full projects in the MTP. Also, there was a formatting issue with the tip on the page that both of these were on. And so we're correcting that with this amendment as well. And now I'll go to Kentucky. This is an interesting one. This is KYTC's Louisville Transportation Safety Improvement Project. So this will be a new project. It's about 15.9 million. And it's a HSIP project targeting the high injury network. It's throughout Jefferson County. And so this one has a variety of safety improvements depending on which specific location it will be. So these include road reconfiguration, striping enhancements, signage, pedestrian crossing enhancements. There's 52 locations, and I wasn't exactly sure how best to describe this in this meeting. But if anyone has any further questions, I can try to get you the answers. Just send me an email. But this is an overview of all the locations. Of those 52, we had, I think, 10 that did affect the air quality model. So it was a big project to move on for this amendment. Additional KYTC projects, we have an existing project, it's pavement markers and lens replacement. That one we are also adding to the MTP and removing it from its group project category because it exceeded the threshold and got some more funding. And then we have a new project, the I-71 rest area renovation, and that one's in Oldham County. Now I'll move to the Louisville Metro projects. We have Reimagine Ninth Street. This one is getting an update to the description, just kind of cleaning up the language there. The open to public date is moving, which that one did affect the model, that move, and some funding changes. So as a recap, in administrative modification 10, which was just 2 months ago, we made some of the changes to that project that would allow, a small portion of the funding to be carved out, and they have two breakout projects related to that project. And one of them was made into a group project, Administrative 10. The other one, and that was called Mohammed Ali and Chestnut River Park Rehab Project, for those who are interested. And so the move here is we're creating the other breakout project, and this one is the 9th Street pedestrian improvements. And again, that's all in conjunction with the greater Reimagine 9th Street project. And I have one more local metro project. This one is the Olmsted Parkways Multi-Use Path System Section 3. And the change is just an update to the total cost for that project. And last, I have 3 projects from TARC. One, we have a new child project to the 585 projects, parent project. This one is a construct bus brake maintenance addition to the Union Station facility. And then I have 2 more that are updates to the TIP funding and open to public dates. These are the Architectural and Engineering Services project and the Purchasing Paratransit Vehicles project. And that concludes my full project list. If anyone has any questions now, I can try to answer them, but action will be requested.
I just have a comment, I'm not
Yes.
suggesting that anything about the way we move forward with the amendment or anything, but I noticed that this KYTC project that has all those various locations, you know, in my opinion, it almost doesn't describe, I mean, it almost should be, I realize it would be an administrative a task to describe each of those locations as a separate project,
Mhm.
but they are. And that is not one project, that is a lot of projects. And when a person like the public or a coordinated agency who may have projects in one of those areas reads that particular project description, they have no idea that a project may be going on in the exact same location. And, you know, this is just my personal opinion, and I don't, but I don't, in my history of coming here, I've never seen much of that. And I just don't think it, in the future, maybe with our, you know, the MPO might consider, you know, making, all agencies be specific about the locations that they're doing improvement work so that all the other agencies in the public can benefit from that. And that we would understand where improvements are being made on the infrastructure. That's just my opinion, and I'm just.
No, I hear you. I thought about this. I discussed it with Aaron and Sally as I was preparing the presentation, and I thought, tell me if you think this would have been a better move. If we had a list, like a chart, line by line, of all of the project limits and what exactly is happening.
Yeah.
Because in retrospect, that's what I wish we would have made, but it was kind of a little too late.
Well, I think it sort of set the precedent for, like, for example, when the highway plan comes out, I could say a list of projects in the 2026, 2028 highway plan, or whatever, and 250 projects, totaling $250 million. And I could send you a map. But then people would be like, what the heck is that? And same with Metro, could do the same thing, and I just don't, and when it comes to authorizing funds and doing a NEPA clearance, you know, are they gonna clear all of that work before they do any infrastructure improvement? Or are they gonna do pieces of that, clear it in NEPA, get a NEPA clearance, a section at a time, and, you know, following the NEPA process, you're really not allowed to do that. So I just, in the future, I'm just not sure that we, as, you know, it's just an opinion. I mean, others probably have stronger opinions about how that works, but I realize it's our agency that's presenting that information.
Tom, is it similar to like, we did a bunch of ADA sidewalk upgrades swept across the whole city and under one project.
Right.
But in that situation, we did have to produce kind of a chart location where then they could
Right.
each be determined if they have their individual NEPA clarity ability.
And we went
And
through,
I remember we created a whole chart or
right,
something,
and we,
and gave a location on it.
whole project area, all of J Down, all of those locations. And then did sub projects where we broke it, you know, I don't think that J Town had a budget. So we only, constructed, batches at a time when funds came available. And so I just, I'm not, you know, when MPO does what they do,
I
but I
understand.
don't, I just think in the future, we ought to look a little differently at that.
I think that there could be a fine line because one of the other projects, the pavement markers and lens replacement. I believe that's a multi-location project as well. And on our end, we don't have those locations. And this one, because of the road reconfiguration, we investigated deeper than maybe we would have for, you know, multi-location pavement patching, because we wanted to make sure that if it affected the model, we were handling that properly. So we know enough about those locations, but we probably could have dived a little deeper on what exactly is happening in all the other specific locations.
Yeah, and especially if they don't know what they're gonna do, that's even trickier because that might be promising or, you know, not following the legal process, and then we're just gonna do whatever we want, and that's not how it works, you know. I just, you know, pavement markers are simple, they're not gonna affect another roadway improvement project, they're not gonna, so, and streetlights might be the same thing, you know, striping along the edge of a road. where
Well,
they
that's what I'm
change it.
saying, some of these, it's like a fine line of like what level of project and,
In my book,
yeah.
I say it's better safe than sorry, and if they're gonna, if our agency wants to do a lot of safety work, then we need to share with the public where and that's being done, so that the public have an opportunity to comment on it. The only reason I know where the locations are is because you kind of showed the spectrum map, which I don't know if was necessarily shown to the public. Like I say, there's.
It was
Yeah, that's all right.
included in our own, we had. For our public comment map, for this one specifically, because. It probably would have overwhelmed all the other project locations, we had a pop-up with this map, so that it didn't take over the public comment map.
Yeah, well, just, I just feel like, I mean, if I can do that, if I can turn in one pit. For all my secure plan projects, all 250 of them, I might just do that, give you a map.
Please don't.
I just think it's very similar. And and then we can get one NEPA document and we can just go on through them all. And it is I would only bring this up at a technical level discussion. I would not bring it up at the policy committee meeting. I didn't bring it up at the air quality informative discussion. But I just thought it was important that I mean, in my opinion, you know, is it the appropriate level of description? I mean, historically, I've not seen too many projects that has that type of description. I mean, this is like, those are sweeping changes, you know, like say, the purpose of, you know, the coordination is like so that the city of Louisville knows exactly what the cabinet's doing and J-Town's doing, and we're not stepping over each other's projects and, you know, misusing resources in an inefficient way. And it's real hard to look at that and tell what's going on and what they're gonna do, if they're gonna do it, you know, because HSP has a limited budget, so sometimes they promise a little more than they can deliver sometimes when the projects get more complicated. And so anyhow, just a thought for the future, nothing, I'm not suggesting we don't.
Yeah, these descriptions are provided by the sponsor. In this case, I know it wasn't District 5, but it was KYTC.
And they are qualified by the MPO and accepted and by the MPO and pushed through the process. And, you know, it's at that time when you know, the MPO could say, hey, you know, this doesn't meet the minimum requirement. And for that matter, what is the minimum requirement? I mean, projects have to have logical utility or logical termini and independent utility, and I thought normally we describe that. And historically, you know, Federal Highways has wanted the federal authorization of funds to match, you know, that description on their project agreement to match the agreement, or excuse me, the TIP project description. And we certainly can't do that unless they authorize all the money in one big batch and it lists all these locations with a map and stuff, which they don't do. You know, typically a federal authorization very specifically says this route from this point to that point and the nature of the work. And, you know, you can't really, how would we do that on this? Are they gonna, it just seems like we're getting out of bounds with the process.
Again, we do have other small projects that are various locations, so where is the line to be drawn?
Well, that to me, it's easy, you know, and pavement markers don't affect anybody but you know, I mean, there's like something embedded in the pavement that's probably already there or in some, but somebody where you're doing a road diet or a intersection alterations, interchange alterations. I mean, HSIP is proposing to reconfigure interchanges, rebuild interchanges in our district. Is it on that list? I don't know. Does it impact other
It's on
projects?
the map, if that counts for anything, it'll be officially on the tip map with solid project limits.
Yeah, again, I can agree with some of this and some, most of the upgrades are probably closer to the pavement marking side of things, the enhanced striping side of things. What was it, 10 out of 52? That had a model impact, is that what it is?
Yes, about 10 of them are model impact.
Yes.
Conversion to 1 to 2 way, from 1 way to 2 way, but then you got a lot of organizing, that's what's the right sizing project.
And it was vetted by the IAC, and the IAC is the place that would have said no to some of these things. The IAC said proceed.
I understand. I understand. I'm just, what I'm trying to say is that, you know, it's, carry on. I have nothing else to say.
Tanya's got a point. Okay, go ahead. Go ahead, Tanya.
Can you hear me just before I start even talking? I just want to
Yes.
make sure everybody can hear me.
Yes.
Okay. All right. So there's some unique things here. Of course, HSIP is typically considered an exempt list of projects. So that means they do not have to follow air quality conformity. However, you all have in your bylaws the rules of what requires an amendment and what does not. And there are costs associated with those for group projects. So of these 52 projects that you mentioned, how many of those projects then fall under the amendment process? Does anyone know off the top of their head?
10 are modelable, but I think some subset of the 10, maybe up to the 10, are fit in that range that we talked to the IAC about, probably about every amendment of exempt, but can be modeled, right? Just because a project type can be modeled doesn't make it non-exempt. Okay, we want to always have the most accurate lane configuration in our model that exists. And sometimes if you're road dieting or something like that, something that somebody else, not KIPTA, but somebody else is blessed as being an exempt project type, we model that too. We don't, you know, because we should. Why wouldn't we want to do that? Why wouldn't we want to have the most accurate number of lanes, or that lane dies off here, not there, type of thing? And so I think the idea that they're modelable is different than exempt or non-exempt. But as a reminder, this is a full amendment here. This has all of them. It doesn't matter because this is everything amendment. It's not an exempt only amendment.
Okay. I do see some valid points in what Tom said in terms of defining those individual projects. Doesn't mean you can't group them together like you've done, but in the map, I don't know if it was complete full story map with the public being able to click on each individual project to be able to see details about those individual projects in your map, like you've shared with us with the TMA Certain View kind of thing. Is it that level of detail for the public or not?
To our knowledge, KIPTA is the only agency that has put a map together with these projects.
Okay, I'm just trying to find a way in which the
Projects from
public
a
can
project
see them
sponsor
to differentiate.
in a list,
Consultant.
a consultant, and we're the first to put it out there in the public sphere. And we did the research of, hey, which ones of these are striping a crosswalk, which ones of these are enhancing the striping along the side and middle center striping, and which ones of these are, what's the most impactful one? A short road diet, I guess, or
Right size.
Right size, yeah, right size. So it's 100% true that there's a wide variety of projects within it. But these were grouped by KYTC as a project, not a group project, not a KIPTA group project, but grouped by KYTC in the application to KIPTA.
To Tanya's question, Andy, though, that information you just stated of how the specific ideas for each segment of the project, that was listed in the public comment map that was clickable. And so like, if you wanted to see of the 50 segments, what is planned for each segment, that was publicly available, right?
As far as I know it is that right?
The
Good.
location.
That's what I was trying to get at. Just want
What,
to make sure that
where?
the public can see enough detail.
Did you hear what Chris said, Tanya?
I'm sorry.
Go ahead, Chris.
The locations, yes, but what happening where, no.
Now there is a summed list though, that when they clicked on it, that they said it could be this, 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 and this. Is that
Yes,
correct?
That's in the project description.
Okay.
It's the.
You want to flip back to that image that showed that project description on for Amendment 4?
That one. The map is
Okay.
up.
Let's
Scroll up.
I'll have to take my
It's in the
glasses on.
inset, right?
You have to scroll up.
In the inset thing? Yeah, right
Yes,
there.
and then you can click on that. This is the
Okay, so-
same map that we discussed at the IAC meeting, and this was available to the public the last 15 days.
Okay, can you show me that description you just popped up, like a little window that popped up inside of that? So if you clicked on one of those, it would bring up that whole listing. Is that correct?
No, this is a special, as Chris said, this is a special, like in what do you call it, inset map?
Yes,
So clicking the project description on the left, you get the description as it will be shown in the packet and in the tip ultimately. And on that map that Greg clicked on a moment ago, that's just like a special edition just to help clarify where the locations are that are being basically effectively described by the project description.
Okay, and then I know you hit this other box. I just wanted to see, is that something the public got to see as well? This one down here that you're scrolling down to, it says project description. Did the public get to be able to read that part?
yes.
Oh, yeah.
Okay,
Yeah, this is
can you
our
click
public
that?
comment map
It looks like
for
there's some
anybody.
dots there. Can you click that and show more information, or how does that? See how it says,
Dots
you scroll down
indicate
past it,
that
so I
there
can't,
is-
that one? Yeah.
The
H
dots
I
indicate that
N.
there's more information. There are
Yes.
two links when we have a public comment period. There is the packet, the PDF that the IAC reviewed, and that has the full details and the line items for the funding phases. And then we have our interactive map, which with ArcGIS, we are limited with how much information we can put on that map. So I believe there's a disclaimer that explains, here's the full packet, here's the public comment map. Because we can't put and all of the details of the PDF on the map. Does that make sense?
Yeah, no, that's fine. I just wanted to make sure there was a way they could connect that project description to those listing of projects. That's what I'm trying to make sure that that's there.
Yes, yeah, basically on, like what you're looking at right now is our page that I create. And so on the left side is the packet, the link to the packet, the right's our public comment map. And so if you go into the public comment map itself, that listing here on the left that's showing the project listings, you click on any of those projects, it doesn't matter any of those, it's gonna give you the project description, the name, sponsor, ID, all that stuff. So the public has all that information to them in 2 different locations.
Okay. Now I see down here it says Louisville Transportation Safety Improvements. Is that the particular project we're discussing that has several pieces inside of it? Okay.
Yes.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And so they'll see this particular subset box over here on the right that has a zoomed out version of all the images, and then they'll be able to hit the project description. You see below that there's a project description. It says high injury network, and then it says HIN, and then there's a bunch of dots. Can they get more information from that after that, or do they have to go back out and go back into the other image to see the details of that?
They have to get
Does that
it
make
from
sense?
the PDF.
You have to go back to the PDF. So, okay, it might be helpful. I could see a benefit of maybe having a link that you hit this project description and it either opens up to see the full project description or that it links back to the
I don't
actual
believe
image.
that's an option with our software.
Okay. All right, but you are allowed to put project description. You're only allowed so many words in there. Is that why it's condensed down
Yes.
a bit?
Yes,
Yeah.
that's why we have the 3 dots to indicate
Okay.
that there's more.
You only get 255 characters. As
Okay,
your
I
longest
could see where
text
there would be a
in
limit.
Any of our GIS stuff, so.
Okay,
If you have 180 projects, each with their own description, you could never put it into that little box.
it would, yeah. Okay, all right. So I guess a way of communicating potentially there's, see the original listing of projects for more information or something general like that. If it starts to get too much to where you can't fit it all in there and there's some important points, it might be a good idea to just cross-reference maybe by verbiage to go back to the main page to see further details or something like that. So I could see that being a benefit as well. I know we're at this point now, it's kind of a little bit further along in the process. Going forward, I think we probably could have a little bit more of a discussion about that. I think the idea here from an IAC standpoint was HSIP projects typically don't have an impact. They could, like Andy said, but if they don't really have an impact, often they're not even processed through air quality conformity because they're considered exempt. But we might have to have a conversation down the road about next time this goes around, and anything's of significant size or impact, maybe we separate those particular ones out.
Could I say just one more thing? If you've noticed that, if you've looked at any of our previous public comment maps for an amendment, they look completely different than this one. Esri went in and changed all of their editing, any of their online tools that we use, they got rid of, and now they made this new one. So on this go around, we had to completely redraw and come up with a whole new idea and concept for how to make the public comment map. So this is the first draft that we've ever done in this new format, and I'll take your comments back and see if we can't add some more stuff to it later. But I just wanted to point out that we kind of had to start all over at the drawing board when we started to make this app. So there are still new things we're trying to learn with this new format that they've given us. So
Okay.
The other one was character limited too, wasn't it?
yeah, it was.
Yeah, so that aspect hasn't changed, the ability to put a novel of a project description in there on the pop-up info.
And again, this is not your standard project that we have. And in retrospect, I think having at least a itemized table that detailed what, where, whether or not it affected air quality might have been helpful, but it was a bit of an afterthought.
All right. It just sounds like a good thing going forward. We're far enough along in this process and knowing the nature of those types of projects. typically I think we could just go forward from here. So thank you.
Thanks, good conversation.
Looks like
And
we have
one
a-
other I have
Go
one
ahead.
other point to make. We are going to have a new STIP document. So this can all be reconciled through once this new STIP comes in. It's going to try to bring in these projects into the STIP so we can line those things back up like we typically do. So thank you.
Go ahead, Bob.
So on the Indiana list, you might want to check with Julie Feltner about 2200052, our DES number. I don't know what line number it was for you. We're showing that that project is going to be eliminated. It is currently suspended and not funded, so I don't know why it would be in an amendment for 28.
I believe that's our 3194 in the KIPTA universe. So that project, through Kathy's office, they are receiving HSIP dollars. And so it was removed. And if Haley is still on the line, I don't know if you want to speak on that project. I think Haley might be the project manager,
Haley's saying no on there.
Haley Thomas.
Yeah, like Haley.
Yes, yeah, yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay. Oh, shoot, the camera's off. That's what's in there.
Well,
Okay. I just wanted to make sure, according to my traffic and safety folks, the last information we had is that it wasn't funded. It was going to be eliminated. But if Kathy did her magic and came up with money, that much better.
yeah,
It was eliminated fairly recently, within the
Yeah.
past year,
yes.
Yes.
right?
Yes, it is currently showing in SPMS is suspended with no CN dollars whatsoever. So I don't know the current status of it. So thank you.
Sorry, I just caught the end of that. Are we talking about that Floyd County, that 2200050?
Yes.
Yeah, St. Joe West.
St. Joe Rest or Perry Crossing?
No, Perry Crossing, Kathy funded. No, St. Joe West.
Okay. All right. I apologize. I was confused for a second. I thought we were talking about that one. I didn't know.
I thought, yeah, I'm looking at KIPTA IDs, not DES numbers.
I'm sorry. Our DES number 2200052, St. Joe West, State Route 60.
Okay. Sorry, I thought I had suspended the 50 DES. Sorry. But
No, the 50, the 50 DES, I believe, is Perry Crossing, which I believe Kathy is funding, so therefore it is active in 29.
Correct.
But the
Correct.
St. Joe West is not.
Okay. Sorry. Apologize.
It's okay.
Well, I'm not sure how to.
Do we need to? Is NDOT's advice to?
Haley,
remove this from the amendment?
Yeah, Haley, it's my understanding that St. Joe West by the central office has been suspended and will be eliminated.
Yes, that's what I see as well. I thought the other project at Perry Crossing, I thought that was the project you were talking about being suspended. The Perry Crossing project is still active.
Correct.
Yeah. Okay, well, we need to make sure, if we're gonna start striking projects from here, we gotta make sure we got the right one. So I'm
Yep.
asking Greg to bring up our public comment map. We're gonna use that to make sure that we're all on the same page on which project might be stricken from this amendment. I think in this case, we're okay, IAC wise, I think, because this is just an intersection improvement with some added turn lanes. I believe that's an exempt project type, so we should be in good shape there. But again, the IAC blessed all of these projects as listed at our meeting in April.
Yeah, that
So if we had to
particular project.
unwind any non-exempt project, we might be in delay mode calls for another month. We don't want to do that. I don't think anybody in this room wants to do that. I really hope not. These are all projects. Yes, so it's not this one, Greg. This is very.
No, it is not this one.
One called SR 60 at St. Joe Road West.
Gotcha.
Correct.
Okay, so what I'm hearing is that NDOT would like us to remove
that
it
one.
all the way out of the MTP.
As far as I understand. Unless Haley, you have other information.
No, sorry, I caused that confusion. I apologize. I think it should be eliminated as well for SPMS.
Out of the MTP or just out of the tip?
I don't have that information.
It,
I'm not-
Well,
the latest
this
guidance we got
project-
was it's eliminated.
it's not in the MTP, this would be putting it in the MTP.
Removing it for consideration to be added to the MTP.
Correct.
Okay.
Okay, so we would entertain a motion to accept the proposal as stated, except that we would remove KIPTA
3054.
3054.
Do we need to follow up at all, or like with the project manager, or go for it and remove that project?
I mean, Haley and Bob, y'all are sure about this, right? That there's no, that y'all are in total agreement on this, right? That this project doesn't need to be in there, like that, it's not gonna pop back up, and be like, what the heck, where'd it go?
This is
right?
this is a state project. I'm not
It-
that aware of it. I thought we were talking about the Perry Crossing
Yeah,
project.
that's
So
the-
I'm not a part of this one, so I apologize.
So Andy, that, yes, as far as I have been informed by our traffic safety folks and this SPMS showing zero funding, this project has been suspended and will be eliminated and could be brought back at a later date, but right now not.
Okay, as long as we're okay with this not being able to be brought back until the next amendment, whenever that might be, you know, it's probably what we're thinking, Chris, probably, we're talking August or something like that.
Right,
Oh, you're fine. You're fine. If this got brought back, it would be a 2032, 33, 34 window timeframe project.
Okay,
Okay, do I have a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve the amendments as presented, except for the removal of KIPTA ID 3054.
There's a second?
Second.
Any further discussion? All right, all in favor? Any opposed? All right, motion passes. Thank you.
thanks everyone.
Okay, up next, item number 6, cost increases for Kentucky and Indiana. Brady.
I was thinking of the spicy items. Right. So, just so you know, Vice Chairman, there's gonna be 2 actions separately, so I'm gonna talk about one item, and we'll have an action. And I'll talk about the second item, and we'll have a second action ahead of time, if that works for you.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay, so first, I'm gonna talk about Indiana. Quick good news on the Indiana front, as we have passed the FEMA's request deadline for Indiana for effectively whatever has been authorized at this point on our Indiana side for this fiscal year is what's gonna be authorized for the most part. And we will have obligated 100% of all of the fiscal year 26 MPO dedicated funds and funds that were previously MPO dedicated funds that we swapped with NDOT's Group 3 funds. All right, that includes $200,000 for the CARE program, $127,000 for KIPTA's ETC program, $200,000 of swapped Group 3 funds for the PE phase of New Albany Slate Run Road Phase 2, $360,000 of swapped Group 3 funds for PE phase of Floyd County's Bridge 38 project, $315,000 of swap Group 3 funds for the PE phase of Floyd County's Highway 150 Break Highlander Point project, $161,000 of swap Group 3 funds for the PE phase of Floyd County's Baylor Wisdom Hilltop project, $142,000 of additional PE funds for Clark County's CR 311 project, $252,000 of PE funds of HSIP funds for New Albany's Spring Street Beharrell Avenue project, and finally, $6.3 million for the construction of Floyd County's Bridge 51 project. And so all of those things are either proceeding or getting, or have been let towards construction, and that is great news on our Indiana side. Looking ahead for fiscal year 27, we're gonna be looking very closely at Clarksville's Progress Way project that has the majority of funds programmed to that for fiscal year 27. Also a couple of concerns on on the likelihood of authorization of right-of-way dollars for two projects into fiscal year 27. And so when our Indiana quarterly meeting group meets again this summer, those will be two of the biggest items for discussion looking into the next fiscal year. If there's any updates on those, then I will come back to this body at that time. What I have for an item for a action item today is we do actually have some additional funds in fiscal year 26. $61,615 in Indiana. What these funds essentially represent is NDOT slightly underestimating the authorization authority of KIPTA's sub-allocated pot of money for fiscal year 26. And so they, now that we're getting halfway through the fiscal year, they realized actually KIPTA, you're gonna have $61,000 more available than we thought. If you can spend it by the, so please try to spend it by the end of the federal fiscal year, September 30th, 2026. And so the proposed distribution of these $61,000 are as follows. Gonna propose $11,274 to go to Floyd County's Bridge 51 project. I mentioned it's already a project that's been let, but it's they still have there's some confusion on a closed PO of their PE funds, so there's still some design work that needed to be done. Here and some confusion. And so NDOT's been able to open it back up and retain most of the money that was in the PO that Floyd County still needs. But KIPTA is suggesting here to cover the remaining federal portion that was in the previously closed PO, and that equals $11,000 here. So proposing that distribution and then the remaining money to go towards the PE phase of Clark County's CR 311 project, KIPTA ID 3364. That project is just, it's right now heavily overmatched for PE according to their recent estimates. And so this would help get closer to 80-20 match for Clark County. So that is the proposal for how to allocate these dollars. Pending the approval of the recommended action of the TDCC today and eventual approval by the TDC. So action is requested for those cost increase requests.
Do you have a motion?
So.
Second?
Second.
Any comments, any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes.
Okay, gonna move, if you can pull that back, if you can pull that back up very quickly, then, now there you go. Thank you. Okay, so we're gonna talk about Kentucky. Cost increase requests from our SWG cost increase reserve. Maybe.
No, thank you, there we go. Or,
Yeah, we're here. We had this discussion in March at the March biannual meeting for cost increase request was discussed at that meeting. No recommendation was made by that group. It was kind of the thought of the group to leave that up to the TTCC to hear and decide. And so here we are in May, because we didn't have a meeting in May. So we're here in May discussing this now. An announcement was made for cost increase requests via email to representatives on March 3rd. KIPTA received one MPO cost increase application asking for $212,000 for additional design funds. KIPTA has $299,019 remaining in the fiscal year 26 STBG cost increase reserve budget. And so on its face, this seems pretty easy. We have one request. It's asking for less than the amount that we have. Under normal circumstances, this would be a very easy recommendation and approval. However, there is some context here that I need to share because nothing can ever be easy. Okay, so this is the project that's requested funds. It's KIPTA ID 3042. State ID 5-80110. Project descriptions: construct a sidewalk along Mount Holly Road, which is Kentucky Highway 2055 from Charlene Drive to Fox Avenue. It's next to the Coral Ridge, connects to the Coral Ridge Elementary School. It's a KYTC project, but it's project sponsored. This project was listed in the 2020 Kentucky State Highway Plan. However, as you can see, there's a screenshot below there, except for the funds at that time were not listed within the biennium. It's my understanding that funds, when they are listed within the biennium, are much more, I don't know the right word, secured than perhaps if they're outside the biennium years. So at this time, back in 2020, it's in the highway plan, not in the biennium. 2022, there are some phases of this project that are within the biennium, 23, 24. Later phases not yet in the biennium. February 2023, KIPTA TPC approves adding STBG and PO funds to this project as listed here. So some design funds originally programmed in 23, and then some right-of-way utility construction funds as well. In the 2024 highway plan, which is it still technically the current highway plan? I don't know if it's because we're in a limbo period. There's about to be a new one, but I guess
published yet.
not published yet, so not official. So this is technically the current highway plan for the next limited number of days. There are design funds that are programmed for this project with SPP funds in the biennium in 2024. There's also funds for right-of-way utilities in 2025, and then also construction funds in the biennium in 2026. So what does that mean? That means this project, as it's currently programmed in the TIP and in the highway plan and in KIPTA's tracking sheet, there's STBG funds that this body controls. There's also SPP funds in the highway plan that are supposed to be secured, more available, reasonably available than other, perhaps some projects in the highway. KYTC authorized KIPTA funds, STBG funds, in fiscal year 24, and has been working on the design of the project, but never authorized the SPP funds from the state for design at any point in time, even though on paper they're available. I have done. Okay, so in short, KYTC has had funds available to cover cost increases within the biennium for this project, and has elected to not seek authorization of those funds, but instead come to KIPTA and ask for 212,000 additional design dollars for the project, and probably will come and ask for additional right-of-way utilities construction funds for this project in the future as well. Last bit of this puzzle: House Bill 502 and House Joint Resolution 75. Which are the precursors to the enacted highway plan that is not yet official, as Tom stated just a minute ago. They demonstrate that SPP funds for this project, that, remember, in the one we just looked at in 2024, the current one, had all the funds in the biennium, now have no funds in the biennium. They are not in House Bill 502, they are only shown in House Joint Resolution 75. Okay, so KYTC had money, as elected, I shouldn't say KYTC, I shouldn't say that, I should say the legislature, the highway plan specifically, had funds, to pull funds out of the biennium and is asking KIPTA to pay for the project that was a joint project with SPP funds and KIPTA funds. Okay, this is what I just said. House Bill 502 is the first few years of the future not yet enacted highway plan. House Joint Resolution 75 is the outer years, the less secure years. And it does show funding in the aggregate that shows projects, so. So basically, the question for this body today is, if you want to approve the project, we have funds available. No one else is asking for it at this time. And it's a good project. It's a sidewalk to a school that everyone here would like to support the project. It's a good project. But the concern is, why would KYTC not request their own funds for the project before coming to KIPTA, and instead assuming KIPTA will pay for the whole thing, or at least pay for this increase that on paper should have been a joint project? So I'll leave that, that's the context, and y'all can make, if you have any questions or make other decisions that you want.
Would you like to remind everybody what happens when we don't use up our cost increase reserve for a given year?
We do not use up the cost increase reserve from a given year. It rolls into the cost increase reserve of the upcoming. And also, we're in May, I'm gonna, based on the calendar I showed you earlier, I'm gonna request cost increase requests from y'all in the next couple of weeks. And so if there's another need for a different project this fiscal year, there's also still an opportunity for that as well.
So the total reserve right now is this 299.
Yes,
Okay.
that's correct. They're asking
For
212 to help with final design, which would leave $87,019 still available for the rest of this fiscal year.
And if they don't end up doing this project for whatever reason, does that money return to the reserve? I guess it never gets paid out in the first place, right? Or
If
I'm trying to.
KYTC, if the TPC granted additional design funds to KYTC and they, for whatever reason, never authorized them,
Mhm.
and they cancel the project or
Mhm.
whatever, if
Right.
that were to happen, then the funds would then return to the general bucket of money
Okay.
that for our fall projects or something like that.
Alright.
But I don't think that would happen.
Okay.
But if it did, then I think that's the route.
Remember too, what Brady said about those other phases too, that the design cost increase, the gateway drug to the hard drugs that come later, the mega cost increases of the later phases that
Right.
aren't certain, maybe.
And keep in mind, Andy, with what we have on the books, we have $120,000, I think, programmed for construction from KIPTA's perspective. With presumably a lack of interest in participating in the funding on the KYTC side, so if the design costs over $300,000 and the construction currently has 120 federal, it's definitely gonna be a lot more than that, right, road, so
We anticipate that it will cost $1 million to build this out.
that sounds reasonable. Like a reasonable estimate.
And to provide a little context, when we started on this project, it was a project put in there by a legislator, on behalf of, some folks in the city of Louisville. And the history of the project is this sidewalk's actually twice as long. The city of Louisville built one section of the sidewalk with a limited budget, and the more difficult section, they did not complete. And, this happens to be that section. And we estimated, when we were unaware of the history of the project, we estimated the cost of the project in our early years as just a sidewalk, and it's a fair cost estimate or a fair sidewalk. And then, we, asked, there's a lot of SPP or state funded projects in the highway plan. There's a lot more projects in there than there is state money to fund them all. So, leadership at the cabinet funds the ones they can, and the other ones, they leave us to seek funding. And we went out and came to KIPTA and thought that this was a good project because it helped complete a connection to a school, to an existing sidewalk that Metro built and wanted to build, but didn't have the money to build. And we asked KIPTA to support that because we didn't think that state funds would pay, but were available to pay for this project. And so, and we, in 2023, like Brady said, KIPTA agreed to participate in all phases of the project, DRUNC, not just the design. And we, started the design and found out all this interesting stuff, that the cost of the project was a little bit more. And a lot more than we anticipated, but the cabinet's going to build this project. And, we will, if this design money is not awarded and additional, funds are not awarded in the future at some point, it's very likely we'll roll up the plans and put them on the shelf till other money comes along, which it probably won't. And then our federal partners will ask us on a regular basis every year, why aren't you working on that project? And we'll charge a few dollars to it till infinity. And, it'll just be another set of plans on the shelf. It's up to the NPO if they want to participate in this project. I do feel like we know more. This is following, IPTA is gonna propose new project management rules where they're gonna really want to see cost estimates at the end of preliminary engineering. That's where this project is. These are good cost estimates. We will be asking for more money, and that's, our group may deny us, but we will continue to ask. We came in here in good faith, asking to build a project that everybody wanted and that we thought everybody wanted, and maybe they don't. So anyhow, and it seems like money was available to continue the design work, and we are anxious to do that. And it's up to the technical committee to make a recommendation whether this funding should be awarded. And then, of course, the policy committee will make the final decision. So I think I've said what I need to say.
I think I think everybody had, as far as I know, everybody has good faith on this project for sure. It's as if like this nameless, faceless highway plan is what doesn't have the good faith, like the actions of the funding moving the story that Brady told might show a little bit less than good faith, as in everything's leaking or everything's fake. It's pretend money, and that's frustrating. It's frustrating to the residents of Fairdale, the people in Louisville Metro, people at the district level, at MPOs and ads across the state, when commitments in writing are made on a highway plan that aren't as strong as things like commitments in an MPO's tip, right? That should be incredibly strong. And so that's kind of the story here. This project is not a single version of this. It's not a unicorn project. There's plenty of projects that have similar stories to be told about them. And KIPTA has committed substantial dollars, more than the design. I mean, I don't know if we showed it. It was probably up there, but I don't remember if we showed it. What's programmed in our what we say in our tracking sheet, what we currently have on our books in our tip. It goes well beyond the 299.
So what KIPTA has on our books right now, just for clarity, we have the design funding that's already been authorized of $120,000 that was authorized in 2024. We have 24,000 in right of way, 24,000 in utilities, and 120,000 for construction. That's what we have on the books today.
So those are going to multiply.
But, in a way that is, Tom talks about after PE, you get a net cost estimate. We're going to talk about that in a future agenda item. I'm less concerned about that, although it's something we would like to improve on. More concerned about the lack of authorization of SPP funds that seemingly would be, we should consider to be available, frankly.
Any further comments, discussion, or would someone like to make a motion?
I make a motion to approve.
Second.
Right, any discussion?
I think it's a great, project to get kids safe routes to school, complete streets, all that. Just we'll see if it actually works out.
All right, all in favor? Oh, yeah, all in favor, please.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, motion passes. Okay, up next is Brady again, planning studies call for applications.
It'll be number 8 too, I this broke the name by mistake. It'll do number 8 as well.
Oh,
Just so you know. Yep. Sure.
So.
Very good private showing of what Brady's doing.
Yeah, exactly.
There we go.
Fiscal year 27 call for them. 2025, we had 3 projects that were completed: Parksville Trail Master Plan, University of Louisville, pedestrian bridge design feasibility study, and then Floyd County's Bailey Bike Sidewalk Master Plan. Ongoing, we have a Louisville Metro Freight Mobility Action Plan and a Shepherdsville Traffic Master Plan for Central Louisville County. They just had a public meeting last night, actually. So these are ongoing projects that have been funded using this source of funds from KIPTA over the past couple of years. It comes from KIPTA's PL dollars that I won't get into. I talked about that before. As of today, there's $125,000 of these funds that are available via this call for studies. Here's the schedule. Call for studies applications opened April 1st and closed April 30th. Staff has been able to take the last few days to analyze those. An announcement of the awarded projects or project will happen at May PPC. These studies have to be completed within the fiscal year. So June 30th, 2027. We only received 1 application and it was $425,000, which is the whole bit here. Lead agency is TARC. Other agency involved is Louisville Metro DOT. It's for a TARC bus stop accessibility analysis, which is to perform a thorough analysis of ADA accessibility of at least 200 TARC bus stops along the highest density corridors of the new TARC network, especially where those corridors align with Metro's high injury corridors. TARC and Metro do not have a complete up-to-date understanding of where gaps exist in the accessibility of its network of bus stops. We know that many stop components are out of compliance with both TARC and public right-of-way accessibility guideline design standards, but there is no comprehensive database of those locations where stops are not accessible to people who use mobility aids, either because they lack boarding pads, contiguous sidewalks, or the sidewalks are in bad repair. And so that's kind of the need, is to provide this analysis so that TARC and Metro both can work together to know how to improve these locations. This study, or this proposed study, aligns with several KIPTA long-range goals and objectives regarding safety, sustainability, and strengthening public transit. So, if there are any questions, happy to have them. This is an action item, and so I recommend approval to fund this study, which is PL.
Can I ask a question? This is all around physical accessibility, or does this have anything to do? We've been spending a lot of time in local governments and state governments on web accessibility and a lot of improvements on visual accessibility. So I'm just wondering if we know if that's a component to this, or if this is more on the physical built environment.
Right, if there's a TARC Metro representative, I might let y'all answer that if you can.
Yes, this would be more of a physical, actually going out to the site, assessing, are they ADA accessible to and from the bus stop, as well as the bus stop and the landing pad, things like that. We have found with our new TARC network that we do have stops that definitely are not ADA accessible, but our goal is for the next year is to try to get that changed, and this is the start of the kickoff of us being able to go out, find that accessibility, have a report so that we know where we need to go to get our funding to get those stops that need to be updated.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Just for everybody's knowledge, the funding is in that UPWP I mentioned earlier, so that we've submitted to the feds at this time. Not project specific, but the funding for PL studies is in there, so the dollars are there.
Okay, any further questions or a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve the recommendation
Recommend, yeah.
or recommend approval. Okay.
A second.
Second that.
Any further discussion? Okay, all in favor?
Um,
Any opposed? Seeing none, motion pass. Okay, item number 8, also with Brady, project management guidebook update. He's gonna give us an update on that and just wanna commend Brady, for his good work on this project. It was a comprehensive effort, over the course of a series of meetings. And so want to thank him and the entire KIPP staff, for their work. It was detailed and we had great conversation leading to, this presentation today. So thank you.
Appreciate that. I see the details here for you on what the recommended adjustments are. Project Manager Guidebook is intended to provide guidance for programming and managing KIPP's and dedicated funding sources. This document outlines KIPP's project process, and provides policies for dedicated projects regarding cost overruns, schedule changes, cost estimates, and procedures for tracking and reporting on these projects on a regular basis. Guidebook was most recently had a minor update, fairly minor update 2 years ago. Right, as Vice Chair O'Neill mentioned, had 3 separate working group meetings, TTCC working group meetings, and we've come up with these recommendations and we'll present to you today. This is the group of individuals who were available at any or all of the 3 meetings. Some folks were only able to come to 1 or 2 of the 3. Some were able to be at all 3, or we get feedback from everyone here to some extent. We talked about guidebook rules that we're talking about today that I'll highlight. We also talked about a variety of other opportunities to improve project delivery in the short term and long term. Those conversations are indirectly related to the guidebook and will continue over the course of the next several months and years. Okay, but today I'm going to talk about specifically what these recommendations are. Okay, if you have your agenda, I'm going to be going through this agenda item here. So kind of some of the goals for the group is, in the broad scope, is KIPP has not. I just mentioned how Indiana just authorized 100% of all of their funds they have available in fiscal year 26. We have not done that in Kentucky, and as far back as I can have records of, honestly, for more than a decade. We have taken on more water in terms of having authorized as much money as we are sub-allocated. And that problem is multifactorial, doesn't just have to do with this guidebook, it has to do with lots of things, but this is a part of the process here. And so in the big picture, we're trying to improve project delivery and improve our project selection process. So we are selecting projects in a responsible way and setting up new projects for success. Okay, so goal 1, these are some of the goals that this group have agreed upon to help guide these recommendations. Improve early project costs and timeline estimates to set projects up for success. Create better expectations for how long projects should take, because all projects are very different and they're different scales. That goes into goal 2, tailor guidebook rules to be more context sensitive, because not all projects face the same issues. Goal 3, retain federally required fiscal constraint of the TIP, but also allow more funding opportunity to reward good stewards of our INCO dedicated funds. So a little more flexibility for our good stewards and perhaps a little less flexibility for less good stewards of our INCO dedicated funds. The process should be firm enough for LPAs to be able to hold their consultants' feet to the fire, or perhaps elected officials, or other partnering groups like utility companies that you have to work with to say, I have deadlines that KIPP is holding me to. I need X done by Y date. Be able to have enough firmness to be able to support the LPAs in their efforts. But also be fair, because projects are delayed for reasons that are outside of our control. That happens all the time with lots of projects. So there has to also be some grace allowed in our process. Goal number 5, ensure that the tracking sheet provides a more reasonable picture of which project phases will actually be obligated in any fiscal year, but especially the current fiscal year. So if you look at our current project tracking sheet, it shows that we're gonna obligate, I think it's over $150 million this year, and we just aren't. There's no chance that we're doing that. We may obligate 40 to 50, which would be an amazing year, but we're not anywhere near 150. And so we want to make sure that our tracking sheet is much more realistic in terms of how much money we have available in the current fiscal year that allows us to have more confidence and flexibility year over year and planning years in the future. Okay, so we go through real quick. The recommendations, these are what I'm sharing with you today are kind of the core policies that we're going to request a recommendation for action on. The actual finalized guidebook will be provided in June. And so the reason I'm presenting these core policies is we have a variety of reasons, but mainly we have a limited time from this year's call for projects. If these are approved, that gives us an idea of how we need to proceed, because we kind of need to proceed yesterday on some of these items. Okay, so the full finalized document will be available for review and change as necessary next week. Here's the core policies. I'm going to jump around a little bit, but I'll start at number 1. Golf projects will happen every year in Kentucky, but remain every 2 years for Indiana. I'm going to go actually all the way. Apologize for some of this confusion, but I'm going to go all the way to the very last item on number 12 here. This involves both states. PE phases must still be obligated in the year programmed. Failure to obligate on schedule will automatically remove PE funds and future phases from the funding program. Projects must sit out at least one call project cycle before the ability to recompete for funds in future call projects. This rule already exists for Kentucky. It's just clarifying in both states. It's even perhaps more, it's also kind of assumed in Indiana because we can't carry over funds, but it's also just as vital that if you can't get your project started on time, then your project phase is scheduled for 2 years away, 3 years away, 5 years away. Well, they're not going to happen on schedule either. So this is basically just a rule to say, we gave you money to start PE. That only takes a couple of months to get your RFP and consultant selected. And there shouldn't be any major barriers stopping you from beginning your project. You shouldn't start on a schedule. Okay. I'm going to flip back to the other page here. I'm looking at number 4. There's a slight error on this recommendations. It says Indiana only here, but this is actually both states. Okay, LPAs will be required to perform both planning level, timeline, and cost estimates in coordination with a third-party consultant hired by KIPTA in consultation with the associated LPA KIPTA before a call projects application is submitted for any project. Once stage 1 design PE or the PE phase is completed, then the LPA must once again perform an updated timeline and cost estimate in coordination with a third-party consultant hired by KIPTA in consultation with the LPA and KIPTA. This will work in slightly different ways. Well, not slightly. In Indiana, the only requirement is that this consultation with KIPTA's cost estimate third-party consultant occurs. There is no other attachments to that process. It's simply an aid to help our Indiana sponsors ensure that the cost estimates are as accurate as they can be. They have a second pair of eyes. In terms of Kentucky, this process with these estimates in terms of cost estimate and timeline estimate relates to many of the other policy recommendations I'm going to share. So let's go to number 4, or sorry, apologize, number 2 on the list. Require completion of the PE phase before any other phases beyond design are officially programmed with dedicated funding. When a new project is awarded funds, PE phase funds and design funds will be officially programmed, and all other phases will be placed in the future projects reserve. Number 5 here says initial estimates for remaining phases after preliminary engineering and design will be held within the future projects. What this does is say a new project that hasn't done any design work yet They'll have a planning level estimate that they will work with a third party consultant to come up with the best planning level estimate they can, based on that planning level estimate, get to, if approved by the DPC. The project will program PE and design funds into the thing, into our tracking sheet, and the project can begin work. Remaining phases, right-of-way utility construction, will be held within a future projects reserve. I'll talk about a little bit in a minute. That funding is basically in a waiting period for the project to finish their stage one design, their PE phase. As Tom mentioned before, your estimates are a lot better when you finish PE. So the idea is to have a consultant check your planning level, work with you on your PE, where you have a confident cost estimate as best you can at that time, but much better estimate than your planning level estimate. And at that time, then you can request funds from this future projects reserve and put them into KIPTA's official funding years. Hopefully, this sets up a project better, with better expectations for success in the future. It also ties some of the consequences for failing to deliver the project on time and on budget to the project specific, to make it context specific for each project. I'll explain that in these other recommendations here. Okay. We look at number 6. Says in Kentucky, this unofficial reserve will have a cap of 25% of the combined STBG sub-allocations program, typically over a 5-year period. 50% for the TA and CRP sub-allocated programs over the same period. This back-end cap restricts how many new PE phases can be active at one time to limit KIPTA from inadvertently overpromising funding. So we've had discussions about the highway plan not being confident in what the money is. We want you to always be confident that if your money is promised by KIPTA, that you're going to have that money available. And so by having a cap of how much funding can be put into a future projects reserve, it's limiting the number of projects that can be in there at one time. If the cap is $30 million for future projects reserve, and that means you can't have 15 $10 million projects waiting in the wings because there's not enough money to fund all of them in the reserve. So these caps provide a confidence level. And whenever a project completes its PE and requests funds from KIPTA via the next Gulf project that happens every year now in Kentucky, funds, when approved, funds will move from the future projects reserve into the official programming, which leaves space available now in the future projects reserve. Then a new project can request and go through the same process and say, could I have some PE and design funds? We'll officially program them, and if there's money available, then it will be in that future projects reserve. And so it's kind of a circular process. Okay. Number 3. Once PE phase is completed and the project alternative is selected, the LPA can request funds for other project phases beyond design. That's what I just talked about. Post PE timeline and cost estimate. So once they do PE, talk with the consultant, they'll come into an agreed reasonable schedule for the project. How long should it take, given all the contingencies for that specific project? How much should it cost based on their most recent and knowledgeable estimates? And then we'll jump to this page here, number 7, and talk about the remaining ones here. The 2+1 phase shift policy will be no more, as we currently have in the guidebook, as a replacement projects would be judged on based on the aforementioned post-PE total project cost estimate and timeline. So you'll have a timeline. We said the project should take 7 years, including right-of-way utilities, construction, with all the context to that specific project. And then every project will be given 2 years of grace beyond that agreed to timeline. And that's how the timeline will work. More on the costs in a minute. Okay, projects with 2 years of grace beyond their estimated timeline. Projects could still compete for cost increases for their project, but cost increases allowed per project would be capped at 25% of the total project cost estimate, determined after PE phase completion. So you have your post PE cost estimate. That's going to be your estimate for your project. It's going to be a much better estimate than your planning level estimate, and you get 25% on top of that as your limit for your project. All right, number 8 here. Projects that exceed 2-year grace period will have all funding removed from the dedicated funding program and must sit out the next 12 projects. Project may then recompete for funding after a 1-year penalty period. Project's original 25% cap that I just mentioned will still apply. However, if a project is re-awarded funds, then a monetary inflation cost increase for each year beyond the year the project was removed from the funding matrix will be permitted according to the Consumer Price Index released by the Bureau of Statistics. Last few ones here. Number 9, funding for the upcoming fiscal year will be reevaluated each year right before the call projects. Okay, so this is an adjustment of. We want to make sure the tracking sheet that I mentioned is realistic. That in the current fiscal year or upcoming fiscal year in this case, that we only have projects in there that have a reasonable chance of authorizing funds. And so we're gonna provide an opportunity twice a year, in July and in March, for that shuffling of project phases around to occur so that we make sure the tracking sheet is reasonable, so that we have more confidence to say how much money is actually available if needed for a project that is performing well. We want to be able to make sure that money is available according to the guidebook rules still within that 25% cap for existing projects that are performing as expected based on their agreed to estimates. Okay. Item number 10, STBG cost increase reserve, which we talked about in the previous agenda item. It will be lowered to 10%. And only be available beginning in March biannual review meeting. Reason for that is we're having all projects every year now. So the cost increase reserve will really only be for projects that are ready to authorize funds. Maybe they have a letting schedule for June. And kind of last second, they realize new estimates come in, they're gonna need a little more money. That's what this is for, is for projects that are ready to go yesterday, but need a little more at the second half of the fiscal year. They want to wait all the way to the next 12 projects. So there still will be a cost increase reserve. It will just be more specified. And the 10% that's removed from the reserve is going to be available on every call projects that we'll do every year. Number 11, the most a single phase can receive is 50% of the adjusted annual allocation of STBG funds. Clarification of that is this applies to the post-PE cost estimate. Programming stage projects can later exceed this 50% threshold if within their 25% cost increase they have. So what this does is basically puts it's basically a rule that we've had for a long time, and the reason we've had it is it's been the judgment of the TPC that in order to ensure there is funding available for all the parties who come to ask for funding, we shouldn't be funding projects that are too great of a scale. By having a cap on how much a single project could cost on the tracking sheet, it allows more funding to go to various small to medium-sized projects, as opposed to having a few very big projects suck up all the money for one. That's the rationale, and has been for a while. That's just a clarification of that existing policy. That is pretty much all of the big major policies. I also have a kind of timeline here on how we call projects in Kentucky, well, both states, but especially in Kentucky would work. Ideally, you'll notice that it starts in May, and we're already in May. So we're gonna be a little behind schedule, and that details of that will come out later for how this year will work. But are there any questions? That long list of information is there. If not, then I would request action to recommend approval of these core policies for the guidebook.
So moved.
Have a second?
Second.
Any discussion?
I would just say that my experience is not that project management has been lazy, just some projects are complicated. And these rules will make our getting of additional dollars and starting new projects a little more complicated. And that's all I have to say.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. Okay, up next, item number 9. We are gonna hear from Andy on federal certification review wrap up.
Yes, I don't have a presentation, so I'll be real brief. For those that didn't know, and I think everybody knew that we hosted our once every 4 years, federal certification review. That happened last week on May 6th and May 7th. That was hosted here at KIPTA, primarily at least. And it was a little bit different than the prior iterations of it, where the schedule was a little bit compressed. We did a half day here at KIPTA of kind of we'll call it a hearing, if you will. We did a public meeting in the evening, and then the review team came back on day 2, on May 7th, on Thursday last week. Wednesday, late last week, whatever the 7th was. And discussed a little bit more. The review team was made up of 2 folks from Federal Highways Kentucky Division, 2 from Indiana Division, 1 each from FTA, Federal Transit Administration Region 4 and 5 in Atlanta and Chicago respectively, and in a similar way, EPA's Region 4 and 5, Atlanta and Chicago respectively there as well. So that was our 8-person review team. The review was here in this room, and as many of you all were there, thank you for being there. It was the review team asking questions. It was KIPTA staff presenting many things that we're very proud of, answering questions about some of the things that we're also proud of, and some of the activities and our processes and procedures here at KIPTA. The agenda was a little different than usual. This one was called I believe they called it a risk-based assessment. So the agenda items were not all of the usual topics that we didn't, on the agenda. There wasn't even talk about the TIP or the long range plan or the conformity process. We did because they gave us some time to sing our own horn, so to speak. We did talk a lot about that during the time that we had during that first session. The highlights that they had were on bike ped, transit planning, safety and security, and the linkages with NEPA process and planning. There was also a stakeholder listening session. So that was the opportunity for the other agencies that were in the room that day to comment on the metropolitan planning process. Remember, this review is not just of KIPTA staff; it's of the process. It's of the process that ultimately the TPC governs in this 5-county region by state region. So thank you all for the kind words. There were good kind words spread then. And so if there are additional comments, I think this date was given out at the meeting on last week, was that June 12th. If anybody, I think the term was, if you want to write a letter, to comment on the process as a stakeholder agency. That window is open. The FHWA window, I guess I should say, is open until June 12th. I believe Tanya is off the call for now. Today's call, those should be addressed to Tanya Higdon. She was the leader of the review team and will be coordinating the final report. If you want to send those to us, you can. We can make sure they get to Tanya. It'd be better to go straight to her. We can get you Tanya's email and contact information, whatever you need. You can just reach out to us. Like I said, we hosted a public meeting. Thank you to St. Matthews for helping us on that. On that evening, the review team was not there. They traditionally have been. They no longer allowed to participate in the public meetings these days. So that was a bit of a change. Anyways, back on to day 2. We got what appears to be a very great report card. Okay, I want to be clear about that, and I want to thank KIPTA staff for that. I want to thank the KIPTA TPC and TTCC member agencies for helping us get there. It appears they particularly liked our GIS approach, all the GIS tools that we showcase. They also particularly liked how we administered the Safe Streets and Roads for All program. In part, I hope, the development of high injury networks, so that all the agencies and all the local governments have a high injury network to work uses their playbook to pursue safety dollars and safety projects in the future. And that was the one where we took on 17 action plans, not 1 but 17, 16 for locals and 16 local ones and 1 overarching regional one. The other things they seem to like is our public outreach and our participation plan. So shout out to Greg on that one for coordinating that and those processes. And then, what did I miss? Oh, the other thing they seem to like is the idea that KIPTA through our project application forms, we have a full one, which says, you know, fill in the whole thing. And then we've got the expedited one that allows you all as project applicants to do the streamline approach for, hey, I just need to change a year, I need to change the funding. So it sounds like we're gonna get some good attaboys and attagirls on that one. We don't know what all the formal findings will be, but it sure does look like that we'll be in very good shape. There were a couple things that appear to be recommendations, and those all seem to be easily rectified, and we'll be able to do those real quick. So September is the final report, we're told. Those findings should be semi-official in an August draft that I think is going to get circulated, sounds like. And again, June 12th is that date for any feedback that might be directed toward Federal Highways Indiana. We haven't answer any questions, but again, I want to, on behalf of Jared Haley, who can't be here today, I want to big shout out to KIPTA MPO staff. That for a lot of the staff in the room, all the staff on the back wall other than Zach, this was their first round at a certification review, and we might have come away with the first time ever with no corrective actions. I don't know, we will know in August for sure, but that seems to be where we're heading here. And so big shout out to the folks that are in the room here today and that are either at the desk or other KIPTA staff. Again, thank you all for your support over the years too. So if you have to answer any questions on that, Tanya's here. I'd probably turn it over to her to see if she wanted to say something else, but it sounds like clean bill of health, sounds like for KIPTA MPO.
Great.
Congratulations. Thank you.
All right, moving on to item number 10, socioeconomic timeline up, Chris and Darian.
Great. Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Darian Cook, and this is Chris Nicholas. We're going to be giving you all an update on where we're at with our socioeconomic forecasting timeline. So first, here is a reminder of why we are doing socioeconomic forecasting. The purpose is to predict future housing, population, and employment for our region. This acts as a foundation for long-range transportation planning. These estimates are essential to ensure transportation investments align with the expected growth of our region over a 20+ year period. Forecasts of housing and employment are also crucial data inputs for travel demand modeling, which predict future travel behavior, traffic volumes, and transit demand. The model translates population and economic growth into projected travel demand, allowing us to identify future traffic bottlenecks and plan necessary improvements for the next 20+ years. These forecasts help identify the relationship between future land use and transportation infrastructure, encouraging a more integrated planning approach. Presenting our mapped forecast to local partners and working meetings will incorporate local feedback to help ensure a cohesive finished product. We will be facilitating working meetings in each county to review our mapped forecast estimates. This is an essential step in the process to ensure we incorporate local land use planning into our data. We will use this local feedback to fine-tune our forecasts and update our maps that will be included in our next long-range plan, Moving Kentuckiana Forward 2050. And Chris is going to talk more about our timeline for this process now. Folks. Try not to take too much more time. Okay, so KIPTA staff is nearing the end of phase 1, which I have here on our roadmap. Phase 1, we collected household employment and population data throughout the region. We have performed analysis to populate the estimates from 2025, which is the base year, to 2050, the horizon year. And we are going to be applying the TAZ level estimates to some maps. There'll be one for employment and one for households per each county displaying the 2050 forecast numbers. The next phase is gonna be the collaboration, and that's the phase that some of you are already aware. We are looking to collaborate with all of you folks. KIPTA's begun scheduling some June working meetings. There's gonna be one in-person meeting in each of the 5 main KIPTA counties. And in preparation for those meetings, KIPTA staff is preparing one virtual instruction meeting. All the participants will be invited to that one meeting, and project materials are going to be provided at that time. It'll be about 2.5 weeks before the in-person meeting, so it's our anticipation that folks can get a head start on looking at that stuff. Next we have phase 3. KIPTA staff's gonna be making any final adjustments, mainly things that we imagine will come out of the working meetings. And then we'll be presenting the maps to the TTCC and TPC. In early fall of 2026, the calibration of the travel demand model will be completed. And then we'll move to phase 4, which will put it all together. The new 2050 household and employment data is going to be used for moving Kentuckiana forward 2050, the next MTP, following many other steps. Going into the MTP development, we're going to be anticipating requesting TPC approval of the new MTP in May of 2027. Also, the new tip will be around there too. So the next steps, we've sent out our emails requesting help with the scheduling of the meeting times. Anyone at this meeting, I think we've already talked. I'm still waiting on scheduling 2 more meetings. Let's see. We're gonna provide more details on the virtual meeting coming up soon. That'll be the first week of June. And the materials are gonna be provided at that meeting. We'll have the virtual instruction, or I'm sorry, the 1-page guide. It'll be a step-by-step guide so that you can kind of have a general overview of what we're requesting help with. And also the pre-delineated housing and employment TAZ maps. We're gonna have those for everyone. And we are gonna make a formatted kind of a comment form so that y'all can jot down comments on particular TAZs that you'd like us to adjust when we come to the working meetings. And that's all I've got. There is no action at this time, but that's a little overview of the process.
You know, this is of all the things that we do on a, usually on a 4-year cycle, this is one of them. But this is one that we lean on you guys as much as anything else. And so this is something that y'all will have that critical knowledge for us that we will present to you an answer. The answer is there. If you say, hey, that's great, leave it. As in that's how many households and jobs are gonna be in those zones in 2050. That's fine. We have an answer, but we want your all's answers. We want your all's local feedback on what's coming, what you all see coming. So please do take that. Please do consider coming to that early June meeting to get lined up with some instructions. If you can't make that one, please do reach out to Chris and Darian. I'm sure they can maybe even give you a special session or something like that of saying, hey, here's what we talked about. But please do, very importantly, take that 2-week period and do some homework. Take that 2-week period and take it back to the people that are in your county or in your that aren't here at TPC or TTCC, because there's other people out there that aren't us. There's economic development people, there's chamber of commerce people, there's all those types. Please do engage those people if you can. If you believe they should be invited to the meetings that we will be coming to you all, please invite those people too. We'll leave that mostly up to the county officials on the Kentucky side for sure. And then on the Indiana side, cities and towns and counties alike. But please do take those 2 weeks and do that homework and come to us with some good feedback. It's only gonna help y'all later, right? That this is a help us, help you, or help whatever that's. I screwed it up. But anyways, please do participate as much as you can on this process, please.
We want the figures to be the region's figures, not just KIPTA's forecast.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. Yeah, we don't wanna be we don't wanna be at odds with anything that is gonna show up in somebody's comprehensive plan update. And so they kept the numbers over here. We don't want it to be that. We want those things to jive. They should jive. There's no good reason not to.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, final item on our agenda is other business. Any updates, comments?
Just one early heads up, I think July, could be a KIPTA committee meeting, summer vacation for everyone. Not all of us will be on vacation around that time. Right? So if you want, you can maybe halfway, what is it? If you write it in pencil, what if you halfway erase something, you probably halfway erase our TTCC meeting in July. So we'll meet next month and likely we'll be bounced back in August.
Great.
More than that next month for sure.
Any other comments, updates from anyone? Hearing none, I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
I'll second that.
Awesome.
Thank you, everybody.
You all want to know?
Oh, yeah, his gavel.